Hey, happy day 15 of our BP challenge. BP challenge for me is blood pressure. For you, it might be health, a health goal that you want to achieve in 90 days, or a lifestyle change you want to make in 90 days, or it might be a business goal, because I help people a lot of times, for the most part, with business and life, because guess what? Our businesses, for most of us entrepreneurs, are our lives, and so they're interconnected. Who I am as a person is not separable from who I am as a business owner, generally speaking. So today, day 15 of our challenge. I'm working specifically to get my blood pressure down, so I don't have to take a prescription drug. You might be, doesn't matter. We're not talking about that. Today, yesterday, the day before yesterday we looked at what was the message from one of the top 3 experts that we picked a couple of days ago. And today, so hopefully we looked at that person and we wrote down, what is their major message? What is the major thing? I think I shared the example of mine was Mayo Clinic, and the major thing that I'm getting from them and pulling out of the information that I perused, because I didn't dive in deeply. If you have a lot of time, you can dive in deeply, but we're just learning the process as we go through this. And if you have a lot of time to commit to this and it's a really serious goal for you and you really want it, you're going to spend more time on it. You're going to devote more time to the things that you want the most. If it's not a huge thing for you, like blood pressure, getting my blood pressure down, yep, this is a goal for me in the next 90 days, and it's very important to me, but it doesn't take precedence over everything else in my life. So it's not going to get more than about 15 minutes of my day. 15 minutes, maybe a half an hour at tops if I get sidetracked looking things up. But 15 minutes a day is about what I'm going to devote to this. And I'm going to make all of the things that I need to do around this fit my lifestyle, and I'm going to build them in over the next 90 days so that I actually don't have to think about it at all, and the things that I need to do to make the goal I want happen in my life, no matter what, automatic, so that they just keep happening, and my goal is assured. No matter what I do, I'm going to set the systems and the motion and things in motion so that I get that goal no matter what. So today we're going to do something similar to what we did yesterday, but I want to add a little bit of a twist to it, and I'm going to have you start to look at what we're looking at from a slightly different angle, or for a slightly different way. We're going to start getting a little bit more analytical in the information that we're seeing and pulling out. It's just another way of researching and looking at things. It's actually not another way, it's the same way. So yesterday we looked at the number 1 expert or source, and we said, okay, what is the major message from this? Today what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing for our second source. It might not be our number 2, but the second source that we pulled out that we want to investigate further. We're going to look at that, and we're going to say, okay, what is their major message? But we're also going to look at their information, and we're going to ask ourselves and evaluate on a scale of either 1 to 5. I like to do 1 to 10, but you can do 1 to 5. 1 being doesn't apply at all. 5 being, yeah, this totally 100% applies right now. So we're going to evaluate the information on 3 factors: important, urgent, and necessary. So let's look at a couple of examples of this. Whenever I am looking at a piece of information, or I'm getting a problem or a challenge given to me, say in my business life or in my regular life, say, okay, let's use blood pressure, for example. I went to the doctor, I found out my blood pressure is really, really high, and if I don't do something about it, then I'm going to have to take a prescription drug. He was already talking about, hey, these are these prescriptions that you could take, and I'd like to prescribe them for you. And I was like, whoa, hold the phone. I already have a history of being challenged by the side effects of different medications. I mean, lots of challenges with that. So whenever I hear you need to take another prescription, meaning I'm going to prescribe this and you're going to take it for the rest of the day, I get a big stop sign in front of my brain that says, no, we need to look at other options. We need to look at other things that could work instead of this. So in that situation, I'm in the doctor's office, I'm like asking myself, okay, is this important? Is it important that I do something about my blood pressure? Because the first thing I said was, well, are there alternatives? Is there something I can do with my diet, my exercise, my lifestyle that could get my blood pressure down and help me avoid taking another prescription? And so we talked about that. So now when I'm thinking, okay, I got to get my blood pressure down, is it important? Yes, it's important. It's important to my health. Now, he said we'll reevaluate it in 6 to 9 months. So that tells me it's important, but it's necessary. I need to do it. I need to find ways to get my blood pressure down. It's necessary because I personally don't want to take that prescription drug. Now, is it urgent? Now I got 6 to 9 months to get it down before he's going to make me go on a prescription drug or highly recommend that I go on a prescription drug. So to me, it's like, yeah, you're going to have to go on a prescription drug in 6 to 9 months. Well, that makes it not particularly urgent. That means I can do a 90-day challenge to help myself create the habits and the lifestyle changes that I need to get my blood pressure down. So as far as urgent goes, I would give it maybe a 1 or a 2. I guess anything less than a year, I personally would have be a 2 or a 3 for urgent. Anything over a year, like, hey, if it's a 5-year thing, yeah, it's like a 4 or a 5. And like I said, I usually do mine on a 10-point scale, but let's keep it simple and just do a 5-point scale. So important. How important is it that I get my blood pressure down? Well, I'm not going to die tomorrow if I don't get my blood pressure down. So it's important. So let's say it's a 4, right? And then necessary, I'm going to say it's a 3 to 4, again, because it's important that I get my blood pressure down because I've already had a sudden cardiac arrest and I need to take care of my heart. It's necessary, and important and necessary are sometimes really interrelated, and it's hard to distinguish between the two, but there's a slight nuance and difference between the things. For example, it might be important that the bathroom gets clean. It might be important that the refrigerator gets cleaned out. It might be necessary and important, but it isn't necessarily necessary that I do it or that I do it today, if that makes sense. So urgency is kind of a time-based thing. Important and necessary are sort of a relative way of just assigning a level of urgency and importance to things for me. And I guess we could have just important and urgent if you want, but I like to add necessary because I like to add that element of, yeah, this thing should get done. It's really important, but it's not important that I actually be the one that does it, right? So that's how I use necessary a little bit different than important and urgent. So from let's use a different example instead of blood pressure. Let's use a medical one. This makes it really clear, because if something is important, urgent, and necessary, it's going to have a higher rating. It's going to be a higher priority for you, and we're going to use that down the road to say, okay, this is the thing I'm going to apply first as I'm moving through the 90-day challenge. And that's part of why I wanted to look at important, urgent, and necessary. Let's give an example of, let's give a medical one, let's give a tax one, and then I'll give another one. So I get a compound fracture, I break my leg, the bone is sticking out of my leg and I'm bleeding. How important, urgent, and necessary is it that I seek medical attention, emergency medical attention? I'm going to say all those are a 5, right? Or I could bleed to death, I could get an infection, I could get gangrene, I could lose my leg, I could die, right? So those are all 5, 5, 5, important, urgent, and necessary. The higher the number on all 3, or the higher overall number, sometimes what I'll do if I'm getting really scientific, remember I'm a nerdy engineer, is I will actually assign a number to each option or priority, or each possibility, and I will then add them up in total, and I'll look at the numbers and I'll use that to rank them, and then I'll reevaluate and look at them and see. But if something's like a compound fracture, sticking out of your leg, the bone sticking out of your leg, it's important, it's urgent, and it's necessary to seek medical attention. All right, paying your taxes. It's important to pay your taxes. It's necessary to pay your taxes. And on April 15th or beyond, it's urgent that you pay your taxes, right? How about finding a different supplier for your business? Again, each of these things will be different based on you and your situation and what's going on with you at the time and what it is that you're working toward, what the decision that you're trying to make, or the possibility or the option that you're looking at, or the information you're looking at means. So say I need a different supplier for my business. I was in the food business. I had an egg supplier. I always was, not always, but on about a once a year basis, or whenever it became apparent that I needed to look at a different supplier, maybe my supplier's customer service, or maybe their terms changed, or maybe they weren't being very reliable, or maybe the quality of their product had changed, I would look at a different supplier. That would make it more urgent and more necessary if there was a problem. But I always, about once a year, I would evaluate all of my suppliers. I would say, you know, how's it working out, and is it working out well? And I also always had a backup supplier. And I got the backup supplier idea because one of my vendors committed suicide. One of my suppliers committed suicide, and it was a supplier that I got key ingredients for my manufacturing process from, and we had backups, but they were super duper expensive, and we never used them because we liked this supplier the best. And when the supplier committed suicide, it was like 6 months later, and the business was sold to a foreign entity. They stripped everything out of the business, and then they went out of business. So that became, it was important to look at other suppliers. It was necessary to look at other suppliers. It wasn't generally urgent, but when this thing happened, it became urgent. So urgency can change based on your current situation, what's going on around you. How about, let's use taking a prescription drug as an example. Is it important? Is it urgent? Is it necessary? And I think I covered this pretty well with my blood pressure medicine one, but is it important to take this particular prescription? If it's a matter of life or death, it might be yes, it's important and it's necessary and it's urgent because you need to take this right now or you're going to die. Now, you can start taking the prescription drug and then seek alternatives and change your lifestyle to make it be unnecessary. My brother-in-law and one of my cousins have they're both diabetic, and they have managed their diet and their lifestyle and made changes in their behavior to the point that they don't have to take insulin or any other prescriptions to manage their diabetes. So it might be necessary, urgent, and important right now, but it doesn't mean you can't make changes to your lifestyle, to your business, to your health that make it unnecessary. So I hope I beat this to death, I hate that expression, beat a dead horse. I hate that expression. But I hope I've made the point clear that it's just another way of evaluating information that you're looking at as you're researching to help sift through all of it, because there is so much information out there that we can get overwhelmed and get frozen and procrastinate because we get analysis paralysis. So it's just a simple way of looking at it and saying, hey, does this make sense? So another lens to look at the information we're researching through. So today, let's go back to the beginning and be really clear. All you need to do is look at your second source, your second expert, or your second source of information, find the most important piece of that, and then just quickly ask yourself, is this important? Is this urgent? Is this necessary? And why I say that is because a lot of times you're going to have a whole lot of different things that you're getting from one source. And so maybe there's 5 things you're getting from a source, and you want to know, okay, which is the one I really want to say is the most important? So now you have a tool to evaluate. Is this thing important, urgent, and necessary? And then when you rate it on those criteria, one thing usually stands out above the rest, and that becomes your most important thing or the most important message. If you have any questions about this, hit me up in the comments below. If it wasn't clear or too discombobulated, let me know that too so I can re-explain it in a way that makes sense to you. All right, have an awesome day. Just do this. It'll only take a couple of minutes. And I will, of course, be with you tomorrow with the next step in our challenge, whatever the challenge is for you, so that you can have what you want in 90 days too.